Press X to honk. It's a button prompt, and not that long ago games didn't really have them. They relied on a list of verbs showing you what you can do by clicking on them. However, since games moved to home consoles, developers found themselves having to communicate which verbs are associated with each button on your controller. And it would be ridiculous for one of the best games that we consider to be the game of the year to mess those up and show you the wrong button, or even one that doesn't even exist on your controller. Right? Right?
Who fucked it up? Is it Balan Wonderworld?
So this has been a thing that bugged me for a long time now, and I have set it as my personal mission to improve the state of button prompts in this industry. So there will be a little gift at the end of the video. Now, even though consoles entered the household in the early 70s-ish, it took a long time until standards were put in place. Most developers were kind of winging it, even in the late 90s, experimenting with nightmare fuel radial menus or aiming with the page up and page down buttons in some shooters.
Classic. The golden age, baby.
Since console development took priority over computers due to perceived bigger market shares, PC Master Race players usually ended up with console ports of their favorite games. And if you were a PC gamer in the 2000s like I was, you should remember the waves of shit ports we were constantly fed as the only alternative. Since they were developed with a controller in mind, the adaptation to keyboard and mouse was not a main concern for the developers.
God damn, Linus is looking
PC
good!
That allowed you to actually click on a menu button with your mouse was a rare sight. That's how we're still ending up with games like Magic the Gathering on the iPad asking me to click to continue with my finger, and Dark Souls asking me to press the A button to pillage a corpse on a keyboard. In Sonic Generations, not only does the game ask you to press a button that does not exist on your keyboard, but the developers lock themselves into that decision by having the button prompt baked into the voice line.
Press the X button here to use the advantage to break through the rocks and continue on.
Those idiots.
I cannot recommend any developer do this, as it creates a ton of problems in the future when it comes to accounting for multiple input methods. And the solution to this is fairly simple. You have to make your game actively check for what type of input is being used and swap button prompts accordingly. I know this because I've done it myself. In my game Move or Die, we accounted for every major controller.
Wait, whoa, wait. Wait, this guy did Move or Die? Wait, what? No fucking way. That's so crazy. I'm an announcer pack in Move or Die. That's so cute. Wow, it all comes full circle. Yeah, that was back in like 2016.
Created the textures and sorted them in such a way that they are easily
Actually, it's probably earlier than that. It was like
change
2015,
their
I
input methods
think.
on the fly. We also hide the mouse cursor if we detect the controller input and show it again if the mouse moves more than a handful of pixels. I think this is one of the best ways to account for this problem, and we later on added more prompts to account for newly released controllers and even implemented the ability to rebind buttons on controllers, which nowadays is supported at the platform level, be it Steam or Xbox, which is lovely. Sometimes games have a little bit more fun with button prompts, and as a result they keep popping up in various videos and articles due to their humor. Like the recontextualized stealth tutorial in Shadow of Mordor, or in Portal 2, where you have to press space to say apple. I made a whole video about invisible tutorials and how they relate to button prompts like these. Link should be on the screen right now.
It's something I never really pay attention to.
Sometimes the problem goes much deeper than simply showing the wrong button prompt, and for that I'd like to take a look at the button prompts in Sea of Thieves.
Never played it. Seems like a fun game. Are the button prompts dog shit?
Developed by Rare, Sea of Thieves is an amazing adventure game. It has stunning water graphics, a gorgeous atmosphere and exciting gameplay, and a masterclass in diegetic mechanics. However, it is an absolute disaster when it comes to controls. Not only does it have inconsistent button prompts, but they are functionally different from one input method to another on the same platform. For example, I'm playing it on PC, and if I use a mouse and keyboard, as it is standard with any PC game, going back from using a cannon requires me to press the interact button, while going back from interacting with a barrel requires me to press a different dedicated back button. And for some reason, backing out of the armory uses the escape button. Those are 3 different buttons I have to memorize.
That's
in order
interesting.
to
I wouldn't have
simply
even paid
back
attention
out
to
of an
that.
action. While if I were to use a controller on the same PC game, all those actions are mapped onto a single convenient button. Just because an input method has more buttons than another doesn't mean that a single action should be spread across multiple buttons without any benefit to the player.
Just change it? Yeah, I guess you could just change it, right? You could just map it.
Instead, keyboard button mapping should make sense.
I think it's more of a problem of
agreed-upon
them shipping
conventions.
it like
For
that,
example,
right?
escape should be the equivalent of that B button on a controller, or even X would do. Any one button really, because the last thing I need during a heated ship battle is to remember which button allows me to let go of my cannon. If conventions are not followed, you'll end up with a mess of buttons like in Marvel Ultimate Alliance, where they ask you to press escape to accept. I think developers should minimize the difference in advantages between input methods as much as the game design allows, especially in a competitive online multiplayer game. The troubling thing is, this is one of the smaller problems Sea of Thieves has when it comes to button inconsistencies. And if you'll allow me, and bear with me, I'm about to go on a little tangent about some of the problems and inconsistencies I've noticed in this game.
Hey, let it ride. I haven't played the game. I don't care.
Secondary.
You can shit on it. Woo! Coming in hot.
In Sea of Thieves, players have a regular interaction.
Goddamn, my man, you've been asking for about 3.5 hours now if I hate JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Are you like part of their PR team? Why do you care so much, man? No, I don't hate JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but I didn't really like parts 3 and 4 that much. Goddamn. What is going on? Why is that so important? I like parts 1 and 2 more than 3 and 4. I know it's like not the most normal take, but Jesus.
Button, let's call it I, and a secondary interact button, and we'll call this one S. If you want to use your lantern to light up a small fire for some fish cooking, you use the interact button. But if you want to light up a flame in a vault using the same lantern, you use the secondary interact. Weird.
Yeah, I still need to watch part 5.
Different buttons. Very confusing.
I plan on doing that pretty soon.
Can you guess which button you can use with your lantern on this flame? That's right.
Resub high
both
def.
of them. Since Sea of Thieves is a game about pirates, there are a lot of places where you can store your resources like food and cannonballs. You can put them in a barrel with the interact button.
Yeah, I know, that's why I'm watching
for
part
when you
5,
want to
because part
open a
6 is
chest.
coming up.
But if you want to put something in a storage crate or a
Hotshot
rowboat, you
in
have to use
Farrer.
secondary interact. Now, can you guess what the interact button does on a storage crate? Does it open it? No, it makes you pick it. You pick it up. I fucking hate this game.
No.
A solution to this inconsistency
Did anyone else have this
would be
problem
to
or no?
ensure that the most common interactions with objects, like opening a crate, are done through the same single button. The important part here is to make sure it's consistent throughout all your game's interactions. And any additional actions like picking up that crate could be done by holding down the same button. One of the more frustrating inconsistencies is when the game outright teaches you in the first 5 minutes of the tutorial that you use interact to talk to a character, only to realize that most characters actually use secondary interact to talk to them in the real game. Except for some of them that use the regular interact button.
This is something that I wouldn't notice in the games at all, because I just adapt to it, but it's a good point to make, I suppose, because it is counterintuitive.
Makes sense following agreed upon conventions.
But if you can remap it, it kind of just
once that is done, you have to also be careful with how you visually present those button prompts to your players. Now, it's important to have your button prompts be as clear as possible. Some developers try to create them in the same art style as the rest of their game, but sometimes it's to the detriment of the player's understanding. For example, when I first saw this prompt, I thought I had to press the right mouse button, because that's the one that stands out to me. I think it's probably not a good idea to use darker colors to highlight the button you want your players to press. Instead, I think this communicates the correct button in a clearer way. And then there is the consideration of showing a single button or all the buttons with the intended one highlighted. With this method, players don't have to memorize the symbols on each button you want them to press, since they only need to know where the highlighted button is in relationship to the other buttons on the controller. However, you might encounter some problems accounting for the controller orientation on platforms like the Switch. Oh, and if your game has too many things your players can do, instead of creating additional buttons to account for them, you could fix some of those problems with contextual buttons. Apex Legends
Does
was
he
praised
consult
on
these
release for their
developers? I'm
contextual
not sure.
pinging system, where player communication is boiled down
haven't
to a
got to that
single
point.
button press that changes outcomes based on context. Pressing it over a piece of gear will notify your teammates of its existence, while pressing it over the enemy will play the appropriate voice line as well as mark them on your teammate's screen. Those were two of the many examples the ping tool can be used for rapid, easy, and efficient communication.
It's a good system.
Back in the mid-90s, King's Quest and Monkey Island consolidated the outdated list of verbs from previous adventure games into a simple
Yeah, I'm still
contextual
watching One Piece.
3-button interface represented
My
by the
opinion hasn't
equivalent of
changed.
a hand, eyes, and a mouth. The reason these
on episode
contextual
46,
interactions
I'm
are
not far.
great is because they rely on agreed-upon conventions, and therefore we already have a basic understanding that using a mouth can be used to talk to someone but also to eat something, and the same applies to the other two. Sea of Thieves kind of has a contextual button where you can press it to cycle through instruments. This is one button that allows you to access multiple instruments with one action. However, these have little to no mechanical use in-game. The thing is, the game never teaches you that this button exists. You have to find it yourself by digging through the key rebinding menu. What the game does teach you is that you can reach those instruments by navigating a series of nested radial menus, where you can find a nested menu within a nested menu, and it's just a mess. I think no game should ever do this. It's annoying to navigate even on a controller.
What, a radial menu?
In order to push a bit further on
I've
this
never had a
concept
problem
and
with a
take
radial
advantage
menu.
of contextual buttons,
I think that's more a
have
preference
mapped relevant
thing.
in-game tools to function buttons on my
Makes you
keyboard,
step-steppy.
and through a little script, I made certain buttons cycle through certain tools. I have set
Yeah, it's
them up
super
in
sad,
such a way
Jam.
that they are bundled up
Fucking
in pairs
wild,
that
really.
make contextual sense. For example, if my ship took some damage, I can press B to bring up my bucket
Oh,
and throw
nested
some water
radial
out.
menu,
And
gotcha.
I can press B again to bring up my wood board so I can patch up those holes. If I keep pressing B, it simply cycles between those two tools. If I'm looking for a treasure, I can press C to bring out my compass and press C again to take out my shovel. I hope you see how this is way more useful. I have one of these clusters for every scenario the game throws at me, be it fishing, combat, riddles, so on and so forth. So yes, I use custom scripts to make my life easier. Now, is this cheating?
Is it
I'm
bannable?
sure you're gonna let me know in the comments below, and we can figure this out together when I'll inevitably make a video about anti-cheat. Until then, the conclusion is that this little modification to how buttons work in Sea of Thieves made my gameplay experience significantly better, and it was done with the type of button that is already supported natively in the game. However, the game does not allow you to natively create such
I'm not
clusters
dropping
of
One
tools
Piece.
other than the already provided
One Piece is doing what I
instruments
needed to do,
and
which
I
is
really
put me to
wish it
sleep.
did. But enough about Sea of Thieves. We're
And
approaching
when I
the
do
end of the
finish an
video,
episode,
and
it's
I
like, oh,
promised
okay,
a
that was
little
alright.
gift, didn't I? When I was working on Move or Die and I got to the point in development where I had to create button prompts, I noticed that there were no good online packs of button prompts, at least not comprehensive free ones, so I proceeded to make my own for every major controller out there and release them online for free. Some of the footage in the beginning of this video was from games that used those button prompts I made, including games like Mega Man Legacy, Outer Wilds, Hunt Showdown, A Hat in Time, Slay the Spire, even
Damn!
2, among other tens of games mentioned in the README file that comes
Shadow
out of the
Warrior
pack.
2?
So if you ever find yourself in need
Some
to
bangers
add
on that
prompts
list.
to your game and you don't want to spend hours creating and maintaining them, you can simply go to this link and download this pack. It includes prompts for every platform you can think of, from Xbox to PlayStation and Switch.
I didn't even know
all
something like this would
relevant
exist in
generations
gaming.
and even VR controllers,
Figured it had to be
including
custom.
illustrations for the controllers themselves at such an angle that you can lay out all the buttons including the triggers without using separate images for them, like this one. I hate it when games do that. The keyboard prompts come in both light and dark variants with a few.
This is more
light
like an
options
ad
if you'd
to
like use
other
your own font
developers.
to make new ones. There are also vector sources including for all the prompts, and the entire pack is in the public domain under Creative Commons 0, which means that you can use them in both personal and commercial projects completely free, even without crediting me. I also tried to design these prompts in a visually neutral language that should fit most art styles, and I'm hoping that this way I can save you and other developers some headache.
What a
and
nice
time,
guy.
allowing you
Goddamn.
guys to focus on the more important parts of game development. Here is the link again, so you don't have to rewind the video. Completely free, with more details in the text file included. My little gift for you. So this was me rambling about button prompts for way too long, and if you end up using these prompts, make sure to put them to good use, because I'm hoping that if you do so, you'll be inspired to add some value of your own out there that other developers get to use sometime in the future. And if enough of us do that, we'll make this industry a little less shit. So
yeah, good
let's
luck.
do that.
Let's start at Activision, maybe. I think if we could somehow salvage that, there'd be a chance. But I don't think button prompts are going to solve the root of those kind of problems. Not yet. But we'll get there. God damn it, we'll fucking get there. That was interesting. That's something I'd never really pay attention to. I'm just AFKing woodcutting. I'm at 87, coming up on 88. So it'll be a little while before we hit 99 woodcutting. Yeah, I'm going to switch to redwoods at 90, obviously. Yep, I've already been keeping up with the Killer Bean game. Sun Portal of the Parasite. Didn't we see that one? I'm pretty sure we watched that one. Because I love those goofy conspiracies, and I'm pretty sure we saw it. Does he still open cards and whatnot, Yu-Gi-Oh, etc.? Not really. I've finished my Yu-Gi-Oh collection. I keep up with the new sets though, so that way my collection can always stay up to date. So I still have like boxes, like this Burst of Destiny and shit, but I don't really open them on stream. Just open them on my own to keep the collection fresh and up to date. I want to make sure I always have every fucking ultra rare and above card ever.